totally grabbed a couple of props, including an action figure of myself.
Are you serious? Nice. Now, who is that? Is that someone else? And it looks like you
No,
back
I'm
in
a
the day?
Jedi.
Yeah, that's you actually
Yeah,
printed,
that is
right?
me as a Jedi. Yeah.
Wow, that is sweet.
I got like 3 props for this.
All right, well, let me kick. Are you ready to kick in or
Yeah.
should we wait a minute? Oh, nice, nice. Look at that. What was that printed on?
Digital metal.
Okay. Is it kind of like who's
They're like super, super fine detail metal, like super fine detail. So they make parts for luxury watches and things like that.
Wow. Yeah, so they get
So
that fine
yeah, they
micro
scanned me at
detail.
Formnext like 3 years ago and then sent me, me. They said my hair gave them a lot of issues, but
Yeah, you got your what do you call it? Trade show head going on there. Just been walking around going crazy.
they're like, we can't do curls.
Yeah. Oh, really? They had an issue with curls. That was the big thing.
Curls don't do well in 3D scanners, so.
Yeah, that's a big part of my past too, with the scanning time. 10 years at Faro Technology, and then a Creaform for a few years. So, spent a lot of time with the scanning technology, and it was fun. That was where I actually saw the most applications because scanning was so new at the time. It was like 2008, 9, 10, around there. Just went into everywhere. Everybody was inviting you in, going to NASA, you go straight to the big thruster chambers and they want you to stand in there and show them how it works inside of there because it was portable and it was new. And it was like, okay, I was like everywhere, Gulfstream Aerospace, going crazy inside of their stuff. Yeah, just also a Blackhawk. I scanned the inside of a Blackhawk helicopter. Like, who gets to go inside?
Awesome.
Right? I was like, are you serious? You want me to go sit in there? He's like, yeah, set up in there and see how much you can capture. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like in the Blackhawk and that was one of the coolest. Anyways,
awesome.
But yeah, scanning in general, man, that was a really big part of my history and seeing that come up in a portable, because it was always working with the CNCs. You could hook it up, and then portable is a whole different thing, man. You get to go in some really cool applications and have fun. Okay.
All right, let's do the thing now.
Hi, everybody. My name's Adam Penna. I'm here to continue the conversation, and I'm very excited today to have Sarah Goehrke joining us from Cleveland, Ohio. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm awesome, Adam. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you here. I know, you've done so many great things inside of the industry, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, and you're also a founder of Additive Integrity now, and with that company building it up in the editing side and managing editor at Fabbaloo. And also you're here because you're with the board of directors for Women in 3D Printing, and their wonderful conference is coming up in January, the TIPE Conference, Technology, Industry, People, and Economics, and looking forward to that. So we've been having the board of directors here once a month, and I'm glad to have you here today to talk a little bit more about that and how things have been going with you.
Yeah, I'm really chuffed to be part of the conversation. I wear a lot of hats for sure, but Women in 3D Printing is a remarkable organization I couldn't be prouder to be a part of. So I really look forward to, sharing more about what we're doing.
Yeah, I know. I'm really excited being a media partner over there for the event itself. And just working with the Women in 3D Printing has been wonderful. This has been a fun time doing this each and every month with everyone, and kind of getting to know a little more about what's going to be happening for the conference itself, because exciting has had a lot of time to plan. We've been getting into this whole virtual world over the last 8 months or so. Everyone's had to be acclimated to what's going on, or most people have. I know some people are holding out, but yeah, now with the planning that's gone behind this to see everything that's happening, it's an inspirational all-female agenda of speakers. So wow, that's going to be cool. And I see it just keeps adding and adding to the amount of activities and people that are attending and the speakers that are involved. So what a great event to be part of. And I'm very happy to be a media partner. So glad to be talking about it today, though. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, we're really, delighted to have you as a media partner and really appreciate you helping to get the word out. This conference is going to be really the first of its kind, and sharing these messages and the way that female leadership is growing so much in this industry is something we're really keen to get out. So let's get it out there.
Yeah, big time. No, it's I come from a large female. There's a lot of females in my family. I have 4 sisters, a mother, a grandmother. It's just been a wonderful time with the women who have raised me in my life. But a lot's changed over the years, with women in the workplace and the way things are. I was a very unique perspective because I just looked at everything as, I know how amazing everyone is, and it's wonderful to actually have anyone around and work with people that are very, inspired and doing great things to move things forward. But knowing and talking to my grandmother, especially, she actually just passed away about a month ago, but wonderful woman who worked in design. She was an interior designer and did a lot of great things in her life, but she came from the World War II. And women back then, the way things were, even when she was getting ready to go off to school, she was very good at math. Every picture she sends me, it has a date, her birthday, and then it has the year she was born, and she does the math and tells you how old she was, So it's great. She had all this great creativity and ability, but it was a little bit different. Coming out of the war, everything was kind of given to men back then, and she had brothers who got opportunities that she wanted. She was actually awarded an opportunity to go work with the school because of her math, and her mother said, let her brother take it, so it was a very different time. But I just bring that up because it's kind of been, it hasn't been something that's been in front of my face until working, out in the industry and seeing things of different situations and the way people are handled, and everybody has their struggles. But I think it's good when you look at everybody's attributes and everybody can be a key player on a team. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing to see. And I hear you on the strong grandmother front. I was named for my maternal grandmother, middle name.
Awesome.
She was an incredible woman and definitely broke barriers in her own time. And like to meet my grandpa, she sneaked him in through her college's curfew, which, also let's appreciate she went to college at the time, 1930, when she was in college. So like her even doing that was breaking barriers itself, and then she broke the rules to meet him. And I mean, I'm glad she did, because here I am. And
yeah, that's a great story. So what did she go to college for back then, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, it was the time that it was, so it was kind of more traditional female roles. So it was a lot of stenography, typography, kind of dictation, sorts of things. And
sure.
She did encourage my mom to be a secretary when it was my mom's turn to go through education. My mom said no. She worked at a medical imaging company for a long time. She was in administration for a while, but when I was in school, my mom went back to school, got her master's degree, and became a high school counselor, elementary school, and then eventually high school counselor. She was a career counselor. I've had amazing luck with really strong female role models in my own life, including my mother, my grandmother. All of them are remarkable. I'm the youngest of 4 sisters myself.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, cool.
And I am wholeheartedly the least accomplished of the 4 of us.
Come on now, really? Wow, impressive
My 2
family.
eldest sisters have PhDs and have pioneered, my eldest sister pioneered her own PhD track at Cleveland's Case Western Reserve University.
Awesome.
She's incredible, the mother to 3 daughters herself. She created her own PhD program. She studied bioethics. She has a dual PhD from Harvard. Incredible. Nice. My next sister has studied social studies for over 20 years, has a PhD, is working at Kent State University, teaching next generations of teachers. My next sister has a master's in education, taught for over a decade, went back to school, became a nurse. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, she actually tried to go to New York City to help with, medical personnel shortages. But she actually got into the city right as New York's cases were thankfully going down. And they had the cap, they had everyone they needed, so they sent her back. So she's still working at Cleveland's University Hospital System as a nurse. She's working with high-risk cancer patients these days.
Oh, wow.
So literally saving lives every day.
Yeah, and
sharing all these stories about her patients, trying to volunteer to help with the pandemic. So by far, my 3 elder sisters are doing so much more for the world than I am. And I'm like, I write.
Oh, come on. Yeah. But I mean, that's a very inspirational family. I mean, yeah, sisters like that. I have some wonderful sisters also who are very hard workers, but you did bring up the mother there, and my mother's an amazing lady who did a lot of great things in her life. She's helped everyone in her family, continues to be a rock when things go on, but she actually, she started out after, going through a divorce, going and getting involved, in the workforce. And so she started, just coming in at entry level at a bank, and doing, calling for collections, that was where she started. But going through over the years, because of her tenacity, because of her intelligence, she's like one of the smartest people I know. She should have been a lawyer or somebody like a mitigator or something like that, because she could really get in there and dig out any issue. But she's amazing. She actually went through her whole progression in banking and ended up retiring, as a VP for one of the largest banks in the U.S., if not the world. So just an amazing woman, amazing hard worker. And it shows you, even without a lot of education, because of her track in life, she didn't actually end up getting a lot of education. She had a scholarship at 16 to go to any college in the USA. And
oh, wow.
And so as an immigrant, she came here, an 8-year-old immigrant from Italy. And by the time she was 16, which, was back in, what was it, at the late 50s, early 60s over there, she had already, excelled so much that she was accepted to any college in the US. And then she ended up taking a different route because of taking care of her mother and things going on. But wow, just what an inspiration to start out with a lot of challenges and not take even a course that was, given to you because of your, inept ability to do certain things. But then at the same time, being able to go through and have a career like that and overcome a lot of the challenges that are out there, especially for women in the workplace. She's a shining example of that to me. And she's just a great woman that represents what you can do when you put your mind to it and just get out there and push for it. A lot of obstacles, but you just overcome them and move forward. Great person. I could talk about her forever, but
that's amazing. Yeah. It sounds like wonderful drive that's definitely inspired you. I mean, clearly you're very driven and you're having some really remarkable conversations these days in additive manufacturing to bring us back to, this industry.
To why we're here, right? Additive manufacturing, 3D printing, and everything's going on. I know you were dealing with your home life in the pandemic. You have even had some new windows put in recently. So a lot of great things. They haven't done it. Oh,
no, they haven't done it.
Bummer. Yeah, it's cold.
I know. I spend all my time talking about how 3D printing's, this amazing supply chain solution, but the supply chain held up the glass for our windows.
Oh boy. Okay.
We actually moved house less than a month after the lockdown started in the spring.
Oh boy.
And had the whole, planning to replace the windows from 1977.
It's a lot.
Getting a new house and a whole new office during a pandemic is trying, but it is what it is. So we'll get those windows eventually, and hopefully before the Cleveland winter hits.
And not to mention, right, a 1-year-old, right? Recently 1 year old.
Yes.
Wow. So it's
as of our conversation, he turned a year old 1 week ago today.
Wow.
So that was during FormNext Connect this year. Awesome. I missed FormNext 2019 because they had a baby instead. So that happened. Now he's a year old. So we've got this whole thing going on. But I've kept a small personal life for a whole year. So that's delightful.
Yeah, it's a lot of different challenges that people go through. But, having a little one during this time and getting used to that, I can't imagine. My little one's 9 years old now. And I know how that first year is. So this is a heck of a first year to be going through that, I'm sure.
It's a heck of a first year, but you know what? The lockdown means we've spent more time inside with him. His name's Gio. And we just get all that quality time. He's never been in daycare. He's with family every day, us and my mom. Thankfully, she's able to come over. She's retired now these days and able to spend time with him. So we're just here with him. My husband and I both work from home. We're here with Gio every day. We get to see him. I travel a lot as a rule for the work that I do in this industry. I have not been able to travel since September of 2019, which is insane for what I do. It's weird to not be on the road, but I'm home with Gio and just watching him grow. He's walking. It's crazy. So, there are silver linings, just being able to see my son grow up and hold him every day. And I'm a nursing mother. It's one of those things we don't talk about a whole lot in professional things, but it's been amazing for our relationship and for keeping him healthy and that whole thing, continuing on.
Yeah, that's an amazing journey right there. I mean, life, right? And the ability to care for another one. And that first year is really precious. I actually had a lot of time with my daughter in her first year. So and never trade that in for anything. I mean, my gosh, that is a blessing too. It's how I look at things a little bit differently now. I mean, it could be a challenge. Yes, I have to help with school, things like that every day, things that I didn't get involved with too much prior to that. So it's a bit of a change, but the interactions we have together, the time that we have together is actually a lot more engaged, because we have to figure out how to actually get through this together. And she's doing virtual schooling now. So that's right here behind the wall. And, it's a different time, but I feel like you're saying, there's a lot of the bright spots in it. Our relationship has grown. My gosh, I can't trade this time in for anything else, as far as the ability to be with her and do certain things and actually give her guidance in where she's going through in her everyday life. So yes, it's good when you focus on the positivity instead of, oh, everything has changed. It has changed, but you got to find out where your life is and cling to it.
Yeah, for sure. And people keep asking like how Gio's doing, seeing people only masked. I'm like, literally, it's all he's ever known. It's been 3/4 of his life at this point. Like, all he knows is people masked. So I love that he's growing up in a safe world where people are paying attention to masking up and taking things seriously. And, he knows who his bubble is, he knows who his people are, and he sees everyone taking precautions, and he's used to masking. Like, if a baby can do it, I think we all can.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I know, a lot of stuff is happening in 3D printing and additive manufacturing, and you've kind of gone through the gamut here. You started out with 3D print and moved away now, doing your own thing with Fabbaloo and with Additive Integrity. So talk about that journey. I mean, what have you seen over the years, and where did your passion start that brought you into the industry?
So the fun thing I like to tell everyone is that in school, I studied creative writing and theater. So obviously I ended up in a manufacturing technology. This entire course has been unplanned, seems like too weak of a word, but fortuitous, I suppose we'll go with.
Okay.
I graduated from college in 2007 with a bachelor's degree in English and one in theater, and I had a minor in Spanish. So the complete opposite setup you'd expect from somebody, trying to work toward the future of additive manufacturing, maybe. But right after graduating, the United States went into a deep recession, and I had been set up at the time to go move to the United Kingdom for my master's degree in theater direction.
Oh, okay.
I had everything in place. I was going to study at the University of East Anglia and get my master's degree in theater direction. And I'm salty about it to this day, because I actually would have overlapped my time there with Matt Smith, who later became the Doctor on Doctor Who. Huge fan.
Oh yeah, that's cool, man. Oh, so I'm a Doctor Who fan also. Awesome.
It's so possible I could have directed him in a play while he was studying acting.
How cool.
And
in another life,
in another life, it didn't happen, because I saw the route of another friend of mine who did go to Ireland for her master's in theater a year ahead of me. And she came back to the United States and ended up working at Home Depot for several years, because she came back into the recession. And I said, like, you know what, maybe I'll stay at the manufacturing company I'm working at right now. I'd gotten a temp job right out of college to kind of hold over those months before I moved to England, and just kind of approached them one day and said, hey, what if I just stay here and go full time? And they said, hey, cool, do that. So I did. And I was a receptionist in tiny manufacturing company for a year and a half. Then I did a lot of the accounting for the company. I did a lot of the accounts receivable, the billing, just exciting stuff, really. It was not. For anyone listening rather than watching, this is a big old head shake. It was not exciting stuff. It was a company that focused on pressure components, and there's only so much valves and nozzles you can take when you're 21 and studied theater.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So from there, I did find a job actually using my degree working in market research. So I was an editor and eventually an industry analyst at a Cleveland-based market research company called the Fredonia Group that did a lot of industry forecasting. So I edited the studies. Eventually, I wrote some of the US studies. We did studies on US, global, and Chinese markets for any industry you could think of. For a while, my go-to trivia knowledge was the annual growth rate of beer sales in China, which is severely outdated because it's been a while now since I've worked there. I it was actually a great company to work at. It was great for broad-based trivia. Several of my colleagues actually went on Jeopardy and were the phone-a-friends on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire,
Oh, cool.
because they just knew everything about everything, you know, from roofing to building construction to beverages to packaging. Like, we covered all these industries, and it was great. And I love the company because I ended up meeting my husband there.
Awesome.
So thanks, guys. He's still with the company. They're doing great. And then just when I was ready for something new, I was applying for jobs literally everywhere, just like everywhere. I was like, I write, I edit, I do things, I can forecast, I can analyze. Who's hiring?
Right.
So I almost worked at a tire company as a copywriter.
Oh, wow.
I almost worked with a restaurant holding company as an admin slash menu editor slash travel to see how all of the restaurant companies they owned were doing. And then I saw an ad for a remote writer and editor position for a growing tech news site. I threw in my resume. It was one of, you know, at that point, several hundred I'd thrown in. And I started a week later, and I was one of the first employees at 3dprint.com.
Nice.
So I started there just as an editor writer. They said, if you don't know the tech, it'll be great. You know, if you don't know it, you can learn it. You'll be working with this stuff day in, day out. So just read it, get a feel for it. We'll have you write a few articles. And I did. At that point, we were publishing 20 to 24 articles daily. That was when Brian and Eddie Krasenstein owned the site. They were just getting it off the ground, really. They'd just gotten a huge investment. So I was able to come on as an employee and get it really going. So I learned a lot about this technology really quickly. And I was like, oh, you know, this is really cool. I saw this like on the news once. Ooh, 3D printers, fancy. They can, I don't know, they make stuff. And it was, you know, an old school maker bot on the news that I saw at that point.
Yeah, that's what we
And then I was working at 3dprint.com, just editing these, you know, editing 24 articles every day and writing some, and like, oh, there's a lot here, isn't there? Like, this is actually really interesting. And so in 2015, the Krasenstein brothers sold the site to Meckler Media, and they said like, hey, we're going out. Do you want to be the new editor-in-chief? And I said, well, of course I do. Because I take very
Good
obvious
answer.
steps
Yeah.
in my career track. And I became the editor-in-chief. And that was when I started traveling for the industry. And so it was October of 2015. I went to my first trade show. It was inside 3D Printing Santa Clara. And that's when I fell in love. Like, you know, we'd been
Immediately, yeah. You see
like,
everything in action.
I'd been into this, it was cool, but then I got to see it in action. I got to touch the parts, I got to see the printers in action, I got to talk to the people making these things happen, and it was incredible. And it wasn't the technology, even though the technology was great. I mean, it was 2015, so the technology is better now. Let's not pretend otherwise.
Sure,
but
yeah, rapidly in the last 5 years for sure.
For sure. I've never seen anything grow like this.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I started really, you know, traveling, seeing who did it, getting hands-on, talking to the people, making things happen, I had this moment and I was like, oh no, this isn't a job. I found a career. Like, I love this. I love this. And so I kept working with it, and I kept doing these things, and I kept getting deeper and deeper in, and just going down the rabbit hole of what additive manufacturing is, and more importantly than that, what it could be. And even more importantly than that, who was making it happen. And that was the ticket for me. And, you know, between that and the travel and honestly, some really unpleasant experiences, it was when I realized the diversity in this industry isn't what it could be. And I learned in a difficult way that being a woman in this industry isn't always the easiest thing to be. And so I started talking to more women, and I realized so many of us have had these experiences that make us stop and think, like, I am doing my job. I am working with technology I love in a field I love, and I'm having issues that my colleagues aren't. I'm having issues my colleagues don't understand. I am in a minority here. I don't have a huge community here. And that was when I started connecting more with Nora Torre, who had founded Women in 3D Printing,
Yes.
which next month will be celebrating its 6th anniversary, which is incredible.
Yeah, wonderful.
And over those 6 years, it's grown to this community of over 10,000 people across the world. Not all women.
Wow.
We've got a lot of men involved, which is remarkable. And their chapters just worldwide and growing, and being able to connect with that base of women, that base of diverse people in this really became a passion point for me. So it was in spring and summer of 2018, I decided to make a huge change for myself. I resigned my position at 3dprint.com and founded my own editorial services company. And that's the genesis of Additive Integrity. And it was at that point too that I joined the board of directors at Women in 3D Printing.
Nice.
And it was the very first board of directors. Nora founded it and invited Dana McCollum from Carbon and me onto the inaugural board. And so the three of us, started the journey of making this thing a nonprofit and a much more organized global structure. It's grown incredibly since, and I couldn't be prouder of the work we've been doing. Nora and I launched the first Diversity for Additive Manufacturing Report in the spring of 2018.
Yes.
We've only been continuing it. We've been growing it. This year, we issued a special edition following the really horrible events in spring and summer of 2020 that saw a huge race divide become especially pervasive in the United States and across the world. And so we reached out to Katie Cincy from 3D Adept Media, and she wonderfully agreed to work with us, and she spearheaded our special edition report, where we branched out on the definition of diversity from women in 3D printing to really a truly diverse look. And we need to talk about race, and we need to talk about backgrounds, and we need to talk about the real underrepresented populations in this industry, because it's not only gender disparity, there's a lot, and having the conversations matters, having the representation matters. And Katie did such a remarkable job. We worked with Erica, the founder of BWise, Black Women in Science and Engineering, for a lot of additional perspective from people of color, from women of color, from people who are, again, having these issues and conversations their colleagues aren't. And when we all work together, it's so much better. We get this diversity of thought, and we get these other ideas and this other, this greater than any of us individually could be when we all come together with new ways of thinking and perspectives and backgrounds. And so it's all been this incredible, passion project growth from an industry I honestly fell into. It was a Craigslist posting that brought me into this.
Yeah.
And from this, I can't stop talking about it.
No, I mean, all of that stuff is amazing. I mean, it really is. It's good to have a community that you can go and talk to and actually work on things like that. I think that's very inspiring. A lot of those conversations are hard to have, and people shy away, including myself. It's hard for me to talk about that stuff, because I think sometimes for me, I'm not a participant in the evil side of things. So I come from maybe a shiny place where I don't see too much of it, or I've never stood for any of it around me. But yeah, I know I don't see it a lot of times, and it's hard to, being a guy, it's like, well, how do I support things other than doing the right thing, being a representative of somebody who does the right thing, and being inclusive of everyone I work with inside of a team, situation. So it's, it's been a kind of a different educational understanding for me to come at it and say, okay, how can I help or be part of something? I am not a woman, obviously, but I do have, a strong feeling of support for what's going on, especially with the women in 3D printing. And so that's why the whole, pandemic and everything going on, and talking with Nora and, talking with Kristen, I had a wonderful interview with her, and things just happen naturally. I've always been a supporter of what's going on, and including, companies I've worked at to actually, suggesting people get involved with women in 3D printing. So it's just it's just awesome to me. I like to see groups of people working as thought leaders together on positivity and actually making things better. So I see that with that group, and like to see it keep going. So happy to be supporting.
Now, we are super appreciative of everything that you've been doing. The conversations you've been having have been great. Before we talked today, I watched some of your other interviews that you've done recently. And I watched, and I listened to your conversations with Kristen and Christina, Dana, and how you've been talking to leaders from women in 3D printing, and just some of your other ones that you've had with participants throughout the 3D printing industry. And, we need that. We need all of these conversations to happen and to continue. And you know what? They suck. For a long time, I tried to stay out of it too, because everyone wants to have that ideal. It's about the technology. It's about what we can do. And people like to say, but it's not about who does it. It's about what happens, and it's about this, and it's about the product and the moving forward. Like, yes, but how do you think that's happening? Like, we're coming up on a lot more autonomous and advanced manufacturing, and a lot of generative design, topology optimization, things that don't necessarily need as hands-on a touch as things have in the past. But how do you think that's happening? Like, these ideas don't happen in a vacuum. It's not AI coming up with generative design, even though it is AI driven ultimately, but it has to come from somewhere, and it has to start with conversations, and they're conversations we don't all want to have. I know I didn't want to have these conversations when I started in this. I was like, it doesn't matter that I'm a woman. Even when I knew at so many events around the world, I was one of the only women in a room. I was often the only woman at a table. Like, I remember an event, and I offhand looked at the seating chart and made a comment to my table mates, like, oh, I guess I'm this table's token woman. And all of the 11 men at my table laughed uncomfortably and tried to deny it. And I was like, there are 4 tables here. There are 4 women in the room. There's 1 woman per table. That wasn't accidental from the seating chart we were given. And there have been times I've been literally the only woman in a room. And it can be difficult, especially because I'm not an engineer. I'm not a material scientist. I'm not a CEO. I'm not a CFO. I'm not an investor. I'm not in any of these positions. I'm generally there as a journalist. I do wear more hats these days, so I'm also doing a lot more through my company as a consultant, as this and that, as whatever anyone needs me to be. But generally, I'm there as a journalist, first through 3dprint.com. Now I'm the managing editor at Fabbaloo. And so usually I get that kind of bird's eye view as a journalist. And it's not my place being there is to tell the story of what's happening. But after a while, I realized, like, what's happening to me, my story is also part of this.
Yes.
Because I am devoted specifically to this one industry. Like, my story intertwines with all of these others that we're telling. And you don't want to tell it, but when I was at, a major events after party and people touched me without my permission, people followed me, people grabbed me, that's not a time we stop talking. That's a time we speak up. And these aren't things I'm willing to let be brushed under a rug anymore.
Yeah,
and
nothing inappropriate should be.
So the more of us who do speak up, and the more of us who lend our voices to these conversations, especially, those of us, I'm a journalist, you're doing these interviews, we're in these positions where we're able to share these stories and to have the conversations and boost the conversations and make them heard. I think it's our responsibility to, share the experiences. Like, after people, touched me while I was walking across a dance floor, just walking to go, let's be honest, get more appetizers. They're delicious and I'm weak. I just wanted more, snacks.
Yeah.
That's not a time to be like, oh, did this really happen? And the first time I was like, maybe that didn't happen. And then it happened again on the same journey across a room.
Wow.
So we need we need to talk about it.
Yeah. No, you do. And I'm glad that you did, obviously, because you're changing the environment for any future, woman or person in that type of situation. Those, who don't speak up, and it's easy. And I shouldn't say it's easy, but a lot of people just don't want to face it and think that, okay, it'll go away. But obviously not for the next person if that person gets away with doing something like that. So yeah, that is an unfortunate circumstance that I'm glad that at least you addressed, because most people probably wouldn't address that, and to have that kind of a situation continue is just not right. It can't happen. So
yeah, and it sucks to address again. Like, I don't want to talk about it. And anytime we talk with women about these things, they're like, I don't want to dwell on that. I don't want to
Sure.
dwell on the negative. Like, let's focus on the positive. And 100%, like, let's focus on the positive. There are amazing things happening, but we need to acknowledge what's wrong before we can fix it.
Sure.
And so when we talk about, especially diversity and inclusion, it's the second part that's so important. Like, it goes beyond just like, ooh, let's bring in diversity. Like, no, let's include everyone. Let's bring everyone into this conversation. Let's bring more voices into the conversation and give them the opportunity to sit at the table where decisions are being made. And they bring these experiences, and you know what? We need those experiences. We need more ways of thinking, and additive manufacturing as an advanced manufacturing technology, I have found, is so much more diverse than, the, we'll call it the traditional manufacturing industry. And that's kind of, where I cut my teeth right out of college. And in college, I temped all through the summers as a student. I've worked in a lot of manufacturing environments, and I was the only woman there, but like in additive, like I'm not the only woman in the room anymore. And admittedly, it's 2020. It's now been over a year since I've physically been in a room with other people in this industry.
We all have that same issue, right?
Yes, you all.
I know.
But I know now, if I were to go in those rooms, when it's safe, when it's healthy, but even when I'm in these virtual events, it's not just me. We're seeing incredible growth in this industry, and there are so many strong female leaders in this industry, and so many leaders of color, so many like people and researchers and students really working toward the next generations of these technologies we've come to love so much. And bringing this back full circle over to the TIPE conference that Women in 3D Printing is putting together, the agenda is incredible. Like, I can't say enough good things. We have dozens of speakers, women who are leading in their fields, from executives to researchers to instructors, like students. We've added a youth track, which is incredible.
That's
I
awesome.
love the youth track. So
Yeah,
we've got technology, industry, people, economics, and youth.
Awesome.
So we're really adding that focus on that next generation. And oh my gosh, like I can't wait until the full agenda is published for real. And once we get it super solidified, because we're almost there. And oh my gosh, like Adam, let me tell you how amazing it is.
Yeah,
there's
awesome.
so many women throughout this industry, and the stories they have to share, the abstracts for these talks, like
yeah,
it's stunning. It's truly stunning.
It is. So I know that like you're talking about the different tracks are technology, industry, people, and economics. Why don't you talk a little bit about the people side of it? I know Nora was interested in what you had to share about what's going on in the people track. Can you give us a little more information about that?
Definitely. So I am happily taking on the position of the track moderator for the people track. So both days of this conference, which is obviously now virtual, on January 27th and 28th, 2021.
That'll be in the description.
Just want to make sure everyone knows. So we'll keep talking about it. So January 27th and 28th, both days. I will be register now. It's open. It's free. You can also sign up to register to get the talks on demand afterward. So
and that's TIPE3D printing.com. So check it out.
Absolutely. And it's also available. It's linked through womenin3dprinting.com, and both Women in 3D Printing and the TIPE Conference are available on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Look us up, join with us. So the people track, I am so excited. I'll be introducing all of our speakers that we have. We've got some amazing speakers, some panelists coming up who will be sharing, the people perspective, because it really is the people who make this industry. And we can talk so much, like technology, industry, and economics are so important to what we're doing because they're literally what we're doing. But in the people track, we'll be focusing on who's doing it. And how do you become one of those people? How, do you really take your interest and get on a track to become a leader in this industry? So we've got leaders in this industry who are just incredible role models. We've got CEOs, we've got people from marketing, we've got people from every aspect you might think of throughout this industry. How do you get into this? How do you rise? How do you, not just as a woman, but as an educated person, get into this? We've got speakers from major corporations, consumer-facing, technology-facing, materials, hardware, software, research, education, universities. I will also be speaking in the people track, and I just keep sitting there like, what could I possibly have to say that these other incredible women don't? But I feel so fortunate to be among them in any small way, whether it's introducing them or speaking among them. I want to share everything with you right now, but until everything's 100% solidified and published, I don't want to run through the agenda, but it will be soon.
We do have Nora next month to wrap it all up in December to talk about what's going on in January. So yeah, no, I think it is so exciting. It just is, Sarah, and this time being able to talk to you and learn more about you and more about the TIPE Conference. It has been wonderful talking to you. Is there anything else you'd like to add while we have you here?
No, I'm just, for the last 2.5 years now, I've been running Additive Integrity as an independent editorial services company targeting additive manufacturing, research, service providers, hardware manufacturers. Really working on this side of the table has been so interesting for me. I love all the work that I've been able to do. I've been putting out a lot of 3D printing guides and resources and blogs for a lot of my clients. I've been moderating a lot of webinars because maybe a lot of what we're doing in 2020 especially has been digital.
Oh yeah, yes it has. Just a little
bit. So the conversations that I've been able to have, I'm moderating another one for HP coming up in a couple of weeks. I just got off a couple with Exponential Works, did one for post-process technologies, and all of these experiences are so wonderful.
Yes.
Working directly with clients in the industry has been just fantastic for really getting to that other side of the table. Anyone else who's interested in finding out more can visit me at additiveintegrity.tech. And my main client, of course, is Fabbaloo. So I love being the managing editor there. Working with Carrie and Marnie has been an absolute highlight of everything I've done, working with such brilliant people. Carrie started Fabbaloo in 2007, which is when I graduated college and hadn't heard of 3D printing yet. So to work with him, he's just brilliant, and so appreciative of that, and being able to keep up with our daily 3D printing publication. It's one of the longest running ones online, so it's just delightful to keep up with all of that. And otherwise, women in 3D printing, I absolutely invite anyone, male, female, however you identify. It's such an inclusive and welcoming community. And every event is always open to everyone in the industry. And we just really welcome more voices to the conversation. There are chapters for every continent now that encompass some of the local chapters. And so this extra level kind of organization has been really cool. Like, I love popping in all of the North America ones when they're held online right now. I've been in, I think, Oceania, Africa, Asia, Middle East. These chapters are going up everywhere. Europe, we've had just some great happy hours and events. Well, everything's digital. We can all be there.
That's right.
So let's be there. Check out womenin3dprinting.com, type3dprinting.com. The TIPE Conference is going to be
amazing,
just remarkable. We'll have thousands of people joining. We've got registration live now. The agenda is only growing and it's finalizing. And I think we just have a great resource, and I can't wait until we can also do this conference on in person
Yes.
too, because this will be an annual event. So Women in 3D Printing is launching this as an annual conference. This year it's digital. Hopefully soon we'll be able to be in person again and see each other in the flesh and really get that feel for it and get that community. But while we're online, everyone can join wherever you are in the world, whatever your time zone. We'll have things available on demand. We're using the Remo platform, which enables some wonderful networking opportunities for actual conversation. Like we can see each other, be on camera.
Yes, I'll have my own table there, so you can come join me and hang out. It'd be wonderful to have you there.
Yes, drop by Adam's table, drop by the Fabbaloo table, come see me in the people track. And otherwise, I look forward to keeping connected with everyone online. Drop me an email. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm far too connected.
You are awesome. That's why.
I just like the people of the industry, Adam. So let's all keep connected.
Yeah, stay connected. And it's wonderful to see the progression of what's been happening in women in 3D printing. It's actually inspiring, and very much looking forward to the TIPE 3D Printing Conference there in January. It's January 27th and 28th, and we'll see you guys there. But Sarah, Goehrke, thank you so much for doing this. It's been wonderful talking to you. You have a wonderful day, and we'll be talking soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Adam, and everyone have a great day.